Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And this movie came out in 2009, and it's directed by David Yates once again. And this one was better than Order of the Phoenix. I'll say that much about it. I enjoyed this one more, and it was decent, I guess. All right, not a bad movie at all. And I enjoyed the performances in this movie as I did in the previous Harry Potter movies. The adults are more than anything else. But still, I didn't really have that big of a problem with the acting in this movie. And I didn't feel as though anyone stood out as terrible in this film, at the very least. They didn't really focus on many of the characters that I really loved. There were just side characters like Hagrid, my favorite character. We don't really get much screen time with him. He's in like one scene, basically, that really stands out, and that's fine and all. At least we get something with him, and it was a good scene. And this movie does try to be playful and fun like the early Harry Potter films, like have a light tone to it and to just be playful and fun. And I feel as though this movie kind of has to do that if it wants to keep the same audience that it already like established from the beginning and just like carry that over here. And I do feel as though they do a good job at doing that. And also with the next movie being Deathly Howls and how things end up being in those movies from memory, this is kind of like their last opportunity to like be playful and fun before they have to get into that. And they do, for the most part, make the most of it. I was entertained throughout this one. I wasn't bored, despite the runtime being 2.5 hours. I was thoroughly entertained, and there were scenes that I kind of remembered about this movie when I first watched it in theaters, and I don't think I've seen it since, but this movie, I just could remember certain aspects to it at the very least, and I was like, okay, I'm excited to come back to this scene in this moment, and it was kind of a fun experience. I felt like the music wasn't bad in this film, not as good as the ones that were scored by John Williams, but still it wasn't bad. It was trying to do its own thing. I like the scenes with Dumbledore and a lot of characters, really, and there are very few characters that I don't really care to see on screen. Mostly the villain characters because they just don't really do much for me, but they're not in the movie all that much, and also, the movie is more or less focused on the comedy in my mind and also the romance angle to these films. And that stuff kind of worked for me and I didn't mind it. And I haven't really talked too much about Alan Rickman in these movies. He's fantastic as Professor Snape. I love him in these movies. He gives like an awesome performance throughout. And he's a very memorable character on top of that. And it's all basically done with acting. Like, he's able to give such screen presence, just like to the character's voice and his mannerisms. And you can just tell everything that you need to know about this character just through their physical performance. And that's what I've always loved about Alan Rickman, is that he just brings so much to it. But going into my negatives, I didn't really care too much for the serious scenes that did not have Dumbledore in them. They just didn't really do a whole lot for me. There were a couple moments where I just felt as though these characters are just not really all that interesting. Like Draco Malfoy, he was kind of annoying, and it's supposed to be a major point in this character's story, I guess, but they don't really develop him at all. Like, he's given, like, I don't know, 5 minutes of screen time, 10 tops. And you're supposed to kind of care about him? I just found that to be such an odd choice because that felt so underdeveloped. And one mistake I think that these movies start making is that they forget to develop important beats of the story to make them interesting. Like, that's not a problem I had with the first 4 movies, but in this one and the previous one, they just don't focus on making every character that matters interesting, like, say, Lord of the Rings. It just feels like more improvised and just like a shamble of things and they're just trying to make a story out of something and they're just making it up as they go along. And that's how it kind of comes across to me. And I believe the books were still being released when these movies were being made. And so I get that when these movies take creative liberties, I can understand that to a certain extent. But at the same time, kind of wish that the payoffs were a bit better. And for the first two acts, I was with the movie, but then we got to the third act, and by that point, you were supposed to be kind of given like a major payoff slash given like a big moment in the story, like something huge has happened, but I didn't care. Despite what was happening story-wise, I just didn't feel as though the build-up was there, and it just left me unsatisfied. It was like, wow, we had a solid first two acts, and then you just fumbled the ending. And it's just so disappointing because there are plenty of individual scenes that are good, that I like, and I can see myself coming back to, but it kind of makes it worse when you look at the movie as a whole, now that we've seen the entire film and now that it's all completed. You start looking at certain things differently and see how does it benefit the overall film in the context of the rest of the movie, this individual scene. And there are so many things that just only go so far because they're not the emotional core of the movie and they're not major plot beats that help you care about when certain things happen in this story. And in terms of a plot progression, it's about the same as Order of the Phoenix, but I didn't really mind it as much because I was entertained and I feel like I was getting something from the characters at the very least. So it's got that going for it, but one thing that kind of bugged me about this movie, and also Order of the Phoenix, which I didn't really mention, is that David Yates, the director, I don't really think he's that great of a director of action sequences. Like, they're serviceable at best, but at worst, they're kind of a mess. You can't really make out what's going on too well. And sometimes there's too much editing, or sometimes things are framed poorly. And I just wish that wasn't an issue. And also, there were moments where things were just black and white almost, or brown or gray. And it just looked ugly to look at, and I hated the look of the movie at times. For this movie, Half-Blood Prince, not to be confused with Order of the Phoenix. And also, one huge mistake that this movie makes is that there's no mystery to what's going on in the plot, because the movie just explicitly shows you what you need to know, and everything that it's showing is pretty much all that you need to know for things to happen at the end of the movie. And there's no mystery, there's no like intriguing elements to it. It was like, okay, they didn't confirm it, but I can still predict that this is what's going to happen. But instead, this movie just confirms everything the first chance that you would possibly get for these things to happen in the way that they would. And because of that, I was like, okay, there's no surprises now, so why am I watching this? And one plot hole with the movie that I just couldn't get out of my head was this book that Harry Potter has that was owned by the Half-Blood Prince. I never once understood why everyone kept telling him that he needed to get rid of it. He's reading it, he's taking advantage of the notes that are taken in the book, and he's just reading about it, and never once did I get the implication like he's reading something that he shouldn't know, or like he's turning into a bad person because of it. He doesn't feel like a changed person at all, other than he's just taking advantage of what's on this book. It's like those notes that are in that book, that's actually cheating. You need to get rid of this book. Like the book is The Ring of Power from Lord of the Rings or something. It just, what? That was like a really dumb plot beat in the story for me. I like the moment of Ron and Harry fighting over who gets the new book and who gets the old book. That was funny. And that's about all I have to say about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Step up from the previous film, but not great overall. I'll take what I can get, I guess, but I'm not entirely satisfied with this one. So check this movie out if you want. It's not terrible. It's just kind of disappointing for me. Not as disappointing as Order of the Phoenix for me. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince a 5 out of 10. Like, this one's almost a 6 out of 10 for me. Like, I was considering it, and for most of the movie it was that, but then the third act happened, and I was like, okay, this is no higher than a 5. But still, I didn't regret watching this one, whereas Order of the Phoenix, I do want to just say it's a 4 out of 10. Like, in my heart, it's a 4 out of 10, but if I'm being a bit more objective about it, it's like, okay, I guess it's a 5 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below your thoughts of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and my social media links. It will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for The Intern. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.